The Old Capitol Storytelling Festival brings stories of the Utah Territory from the 1850s, as well as its historic past, its indigenous people, and even contemporary concerns. The festival takes place in Fillmore, which is Utah's original capital, and in neighboring towns. What prompted the creation of this festival?
Abe Johnson and he was the chair of the Old Capitol Arts and Living History Festival. I was the executive director of Utah Pioneer Heritage Arts. Abe and I met and immediately recognized that we had similar desires. You know, history is a passion for both of us, so we thought, well, we ought to be working together. And Abe said, why don't we introduce storytelling into the Old Capitol Arts and Living History Festival? I said, great idea. I'm a storyteller, I'll come help. We tried it as just a subset of the offerings of the Old Capitol Arts and Living History Festival, and it just never took off. There were so many other offerings. Finally, we said, let's try it separate. Let's do it somewhere else, and let's do it big.
And you know, there are lots of storytelling festivals, but yours is very unique. What makes it so unique?
To our knowledge, it is the only storytelling festival that tells true stories of a defined geographical area. And it embraces not just Utah, because the Utah Territory in the 1850s embraced present-day Utah, almost all of Nevada, the western third or fourth of Colorado, and the southwestern corner of Wyoming. So we accept stories from all of that area, but they have to be true, or mostly true. Our present is totally determined by our past, our history. And so we like geology, we like ancient history, we like contemporary history, because that's a manifestation of how our history is continuing to develop.
The Native American people, over time, we shared stories to capture different events in our history. We may have stories that may have been documented by these cliff drawings or petroglyphs. They go back a long ways to be able to share a story of a particular time, perhaps maybe a hunt or of particular animals or different scenery of Mother Nature. So they tell a story for not only the present generations, but also for the future.
So it's a way of preserving the past,
yes.
too.
We didn't have documentation like other people back then. We didn't write books, but the writings on the wall are our books.
Tell me why it's so important to tell your own story rather than letting someone else tell it.
Well, it's so important because the person who's telling a story, it is their story. You can feel the passion of that story. They know their story. They live that story. And so when they're telling it, you can tell through the passion of how they presented it, through the motions of eye and hand movement, and etc. If someone else is telling it, they're just telling it by how they were able to memorize a story, and the whole passion and the power of it is then lost.
It's got to come from their heart.
Yes, the heart.
The essence of a good story is drama. It's the tipping point where you get to a point where it could go either way. And the anticipation is, what happened? Which way did it go? How did they get out of that?
Talk about using music to tell your stories.
All art, I think, is the same, that you examine the elements, you do some research, and you assemble the elements, and then you look for motifs, things that keep being repeated, and then connections that make a theme to that. And when I do that with a story, then those motifs start to bring to mind musical expressions of them, and the theme is the overarching story.
I know you tell stories through your music, through the flute.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let me
Play me a story.
This is my story, or one of many stories.
Okay.
This song is called In the Eyes, is honoring of our older people, our generations, our grandmas, our grandpas. If you look into an older person's facial expressions in their eyes, you can see wisdom, knowledge, experience. Both of my parents had gone to the spirit world, and both of my grandparents, when I arrived to this world, had also gone prior to my arrival. And if we don't capture these moments of time like this, then that information, that stories will be gone forever.
What do you hope people will come away with from this festival?
We want them to claim their territory in every way, because it's only when you say, this is my territory, that you start to own it. And it's in telling the stories that you come to really own it. So we want people to come to the open mic sessions, tell their stories. We will record them and then give them a copy of that. All kinds of storytelling about all kinds of different themes. The Territorial State House was preserved for a reason. It got to a point where it was so derelict, it was about to be torn down. And only the intervention of the Daughters of Utah Pioneers in the area saved it from being torn down. They got the funding to restore it, and then they turned it into a museum, turned it over to the state of Utah, and it became our first state park. All of those stories that are now kept inside, every artifact has a story to go with it, ought to be the jumping off point for thousands of stories.
Fascinating.
There are thousands of stories that need to be told. We need to develop thousands of storytellers. So, all of you out there, claim your territory. Come visit us. I can promise you, you won't be disappointed that you came.
Make sure you put this storytelling festival on your bucket list to experience what makes Utah unique. You'll enjoy stories, music, food, art, historic tours, and more. For Contact in the Community, I'm Mary Dixon.